When should you object during a court trial? Imagine sitting in a courtroom, watching a witness answer a question that seems off or hearing evidence that just doesn't sit right. That's when knowing when to object becomes really important. In a trial, objections are your tools to stop improper questions or evidence from being presented. You should object whenever something violates the rules of evidence or court procedures. For example, if the opposing side tries to introduce evidence that is irrelevant to the case, you should object. Relevance means the evidence doesn't help prove or disprove anything related to the case. Another common reason to object is if the evidence might unfairly prejudice the jury. Even if the evidence is relevant, if it could bias the jury unfairly, you can object on the grounds of unfair prejudice. For example, if a question or evidence is overly emotional or inflammatory, it might sway the jury unfairly. Questions that suggest the answer are also a good reason to object. These are called leading questions. They are usually not allowed during direct examination because they can influence the witness's answer. But they are often permitted during cross-examination. Hearsay is another big reason to object. Hearsay is when someone talks about what someone else said outside the courtroom, and it's offered to prove what's true. There are exceptions, but generally, hearsay is not allowed unless it fits a specific rule. If a witness is asked to guess or make an inference about something they don't know directly, that's called speculation. You can object because witnesses should only testify about what they personally observed or know. Sometimes, questions are asked again after they've already been answered. This is called asked and answered, and it can be objected to prevent wasting time or confusing the jury. Vague or unclear questions are also grounds for objection. If a question is confusing, the witness might give an answer that doesn't really help. And if a witness's answer doesn't answer the question asked, that's called a non-responsive answer, which you can object to. Timing is key. You should object as soon as the improper question is asked or the inadmissible evidence is introduced. If you wait until after the witness answers, the jury might hear something they shouldn't. Objections protect the integrity of the trial. They make sure only proper and relevant evidence is considered. They also help keep the process fair for all parties involved. In court, objections are your way to control what gets in front of the judge and jury. They help prevent misleading or prejudicial information from influencing the case. But it's also smart to pick your moments. Not every questionable question needs an objection. Sometimes, letting a question pass might be strategic if it helps your side. So remember, object during a trial whenever the opposing side tries to introduce evidence or ask questions that break the rules. Do it quickly, right when the issue comes up, to protect your client and keep the trial fair.